What's going on, everybody? It's John Dickinson, and I'm with you here at Levi Stadium, of all places. Why? Well, because the 49ers and the Ravens are going to be playing a big one coming up here later. And of course, you can catch that game on KNBR, the sports leader. Doing a little something different for this Monday and for this Christmas holiday as far as the Dubs OT show goes. Dubs OT for KNBR, the sports leader. Warriors lose 120 to 114 to the Denver Nuggets. And due to a little bit of a technical issue, we're going to be rolling this thing out in a different way. So for those of you that want to watch, you'll have the ability to watch it on YouTube. We're also going to do this in a podcast form as we break down the Warriors Nuggets game. And for those of you that are watching at this point on my Twitter feed as well, you can do that as we kind of get into just breaking this thing down. We got the Warriors seeing their winning streak come to an end as the Nuggets are able to beat the Warriors. So the 5-game winning streak that saw Golden State go from 10-14 to 15-14 is over. Warriors have been playing much better basketball over the course of the last week, but just not enough to beat the defending champs, even with the defending champions coming off of a road trip and a little bit sluggish at the start. So let's get to some thoughts on this one here on the sports leader. And again, this will be podcasted a little bit later on in the afternoon, and it'll be put up on YouTube as well if you want to catch the visual version. And here at Levi Stadium with some awesome portraits behind me. You got Bill Walsh looking over my shoulder. You got Ronnie Lott looking over my shoulder. I got Lund and Copes and Dennis Brown. They're in a room here close to me doing the 49er pregame on the sports leader. But let's talk some Dubs, and let's do it here for the next hour as we get everybody on into their Christmas holiday late afternoon and evening, where, of course, everybody's going to be locked in for the 49ers and the Ravens. So some thoughts on this one. Andrew Wiggins, first and foremost, he was the best player on the floor for the Warriors in this game. Much needed game from Andrew Wiggins in his return as he scores 22 points off the bench, and the Warriors bench dominated the Nuggets bench, and that was a big part of the reason why the Warriors were in this game. Flat out, the starters didn't perform in this game. The bench did perform for the Warriors in this game. And Andrew Wiggins led the way for the Warriors bench that outscored the Denver bench 57-15, plus 42 for the Warriors as far as the bench points go. And it really helped them get back into the game after they got off to kind of a sluggish start both ways. Pajemski drew the defensive assignment on Jamal Murray, and it looked like, Jonathan Kuminga and Pajemski early. It seemed, maybe not quite ready for the big stage of Christmas. I thought the Warriors played a little nervous in this game early. Nuggets coming off of a road trip back home, early start time, 12:30 Mountain. I thought they were a little bit shaky early in the game, but both teams able to shake that off. Klay Thompson was hot. He continues to be very much in rhythm, but nobody else was hot. The Warriors were making threes, but they weren't making twos. They fell down 26-17, basically at the point in which the bench players got rolling. And the overarching theme, as everybody kind of shook off a little bit of the nerves, was the Warriors just didn't get enough in this game from Stephen Curry and from Klay Thompson. You look up 10 of 33 for Steph and Klay, 6 of 23 from three. They combined for 27 points. The whole Steph Curry on Christmas doesn't play well thing, that's real. When you look at Curry and his numbers came into play shooting 32% on Christmas. He shoots 33%, 7 of 21 in this game, and had been averaging 15.3 points per game in his Christmas Day appearances. And so Steph will up that a little bit, but not very much. He goes for 18. The Nuggets, of course, trying to really take Steph out of his game. But the bottom line and the overarching theme, bench got the Warriors back into the game all morning and afternoon long, as that 10-point deficit had been cut down to 3 by the end of the quarter. It was 29-26, and the bench disparity that was going to be there throughout the entire afternoon, it jumped in. Warriors didn't play great defensively in the first quarter. Nuggets missed some shots that were good looks. Nuggets also took some bad shots. I thought the Warriors took some bad shots, had a couple of turnovers as well. So they hung in after playing pretty poorly overall in that first quarter. Second quarter, the Warriors were able to extend the run from down 10 to within 1. And then Michael Porter Jr. hit back-to-back buckets, but Podziemski and Chris Paul would tie the game with back-to-back threes. And the Warriors playing a little zone against the Nuggets bench. And look, I think if there's one thing, just kind of bigger picture as far as the Nuggets bench group goes, and just comparing their team that they're trying to win with over the course of this season as defending champions compared to, like, they miss Bruce Brown, that they, I think, miss Jeff Green, but believe it or not, like, they had a stable veteran group of bench players that they could go to over the course of last year that they really don't have. And so they're trying to find it. And, that's part of the cost of doing business if you're going to be a defending champion. But this team is a starter heavy unit for the Nuggets. And so you felt that they'd be vulnerable to the Warriors bench that has been so dominant throughout this season. And they really were. Dominant as we laid out the numbers and just the way that the Warriors were able to get it done, 57-15 plus 42 in terms of the overall bench numbers there in favor of Golden State. So, yeah, Warriors playing well as far as quarter number 2, and back and forth. Basically, the Nuggets tied it at 44. They went on a 16-3 run after the Warriors had gone on a 15-3 run to lead by 6. So it was back and forth both ways, game of runs. And a lot of that run for Denver, when they were able to go from 6 down back up to 7, was when Steve Kerr did not have Andrew Wiggins on the floor. And Andrew Wiggins ended up, as I mentioned, a game high for the Warriors, plus 18 in this one. And Kerr went right back to Wiggins with the Warriors down 7. And immediately the Warriors went on an 8-0 run to take a 1-point lead. And Wiggins was plus 19 before he hit the bench, picked up his 3rd foul late in the half. And that advantage, that plus 42, was basically half of the damage done in favor of the Warriors, 28-8 at that point, with Wiggins having 10 of the 28 at the half. Stephen Curry, just 1 field goal in the first half for Curry. We talked about the Christmas stuff and all of the issues that Steph has had in terms of scoring and laid out the numbers on the Christmas holiday, but kind of an opportunity missed in the third quarter. But I think it's also a scenario where the offense, as it got rolling in the third, Warriors got cooking in the third quarter as well. Steph got going, and the Warriors put up 35 in the third, but the problem was the Nuggets put up 39, and the reason the Nuggets put up 39 was all the fouls. Warriors fouled too much. I think Golden State, if you gave them a little truth serum, would say they felt they got a tough whistle, that Jokic was basically not getting fouled at the level by which he was going to the free throw line. And Jokic, difference in the game, ends up being him at the free throw line specifically. 18 of 18 for Nikola Jokic at the free throw line. And Joker, on a night where he doesn't play all that well, 4 of 12, and he was 1 of 8 at one point, but he still ends up with 26, 14, and 8. But it was the free throw line, and in particular the third and fourth quarters with the Nuggets' ability to get to the free throw line that did the Warriors in this one, as Golden State basically found themselves losing the starting lineup battle in that first half of quarter number 3. The Nuggets pushed it out to a 81-75 lead at the 4-minute mark, and then 85-77. But the Warriors would cut into it a little bit as the third quarter would close, when they would go back to the bench. But yeah, 10 free throws for Jokic in the quarter, 17 free throws for Denver in that quarter overall. And the Warriors really in all 3 of the first 3 quarters played well at the end of quarters to get back into the game. And a lot of that obviously was the bench. A lot of that was the Andrew Wiggins contribution that I alluded to at the end of the first half. All right, so this is Dubs OT. It's a special edition. It's a live stream from Levi's Stadium for KNBR, the sports leader, as the 49ers and Ravens are going to be coming up on KNBR tonight. If you're watching via the JD John Dickinson YouTube, you can get the program that way. Also appreciate those that have caught the stream on Twitter and X as we busted this thing out, but it will be mass blasted out to everyone a little bit later on in the afternoon, both the video version and also the podcast version as well. So if you want to catch that, you can, and just kind of get my takes on this one. Unable due to a technical issue to be able to get interactive with it as we like to. Also want to let everybody know there's going to be another Just Dubs podcast that's going to drop tomorrow for KNBR, the sports leader. Look for that early afternoon, myself and Greg Silver, and then we'll be right back at it with Dubs OT here on KNBR Thursday following the next Warriors game, as the Warriors are going to take on the Miami Heat, then the Dallas Mavericks, and then we flip the calendar all the way to 2024, and the Warriors are going to be on the home floor a bunch at the beginning of 2024, and we're going to have you covered after all of those games here on KNBR, the sports leader. So, yeah, down the stretch, basically it became a game about the Warriors starters versus the Denver starters. Nuggets won the battle of the starters. Nuggets won the Jokic minutes in a big way. Nikola Jokic ends up plus 21 in a game that the Warriors lose by 6. So the Warriors were a plus 15 when Jokic was not on the court, but the Nuggets a plus 21 with Jokic on the court, and that proves to be the difference in this one. Again, the free throw shooting, while Jokic had the bulk of the free throws, I think the Warriors should probably tell you that they didn't love the whistle that they got in this game, although they did go to the free throw line 23 times themselves. And the advantage, though, winds up being 26 points at the free throw line, and all of those free throws for Jokic, that to the Warriors 20, albeit 20 of 23 and a higher percentage, but 9 fewer attempts, 6 fewer makes. Warriors wind up losing the game by 6, 120 to 114, and it's right there. So good test for the Warriors, just kind of working their way out and giving some bigger picture thoughts on this. A good test for the Warriors. I thought, given the way that they'd played over the last really 6 games. I think you can include the Clippers game, which was the first game that Steve Kerr went to the new lineup with Stephen Curry and Pajemski and Klay Thompson, with Jonathan Kuminga and Kevon Looney. And so defending champs going up against Jokic, I think there had been a lot of discussion about the fact that, all right, the Warriors have been playing better basketball. They'd been winning, but what did it really mean? What did it really mean? A whole heck of a lot, given some of the opponents. A couple of games against Portland, game against Washington. I mean, some of the worst teams in the NBA. Brooklyn's kind of a middle of the pack squad. The Warriors did beat the Celtics, who were playing as well as anybody in the NBA. And so you look at that, and that was the big win. But I think these next 2 weeks are really going to be the determining factor as far as what the Warriors look to do with the trade deadline suddenly looming. I mean, we're basically a month and a half away from the trade deadline on February the 8th. And so we'll have to see, with the path that the Warriors choose to go down, because the younger players have been higher level contributors to the Warriors during this stretch. But it's going to be interesting to see if that means that the Warriors look to trade veterans, or do they look to potentially package some of the younger players in an attempt to bring in some younger prime type players into the fold as well. So there's a lot of different options with a lot of different Warriors players contributing that maybe hadn't necessarily contributed to this point on the season. So KNBR Dubs OT with JD John Dickinson on the sports leader. Appreciate everybody again watching on the JD John Dickinson YouTube page, also on the JD Twitter feed. The ability to stream that, much appreciated, with a little bit of a technical issue for today, and conflict with obviously the 49ers and the Ravens coming up in the matchup that all of the world is going to want to see here on the Christmas holiday. But yeah, just kind of bigger picture thoughts on the Warriors and on this game for Golden State. Really good sign that Andrew Wiggins was able to play as well as he did. The Warriors need Andrew Wiggins playing at a high level, whether he's in the starting lineup, whether he's coming off the bench, regardless of whatever it is for Andrew Wiggins. The Warriors need this version of Andrew Wiggins. Now, the bummer is the Warriors have wasted, it seems like, Wiggins' best games. You go back to the one against Oklahoma City where they bungled the not foul with Chet Holmgren. He hit a three, goes to overtime. Warriors end up losing that game in the OT. That was by far the best game of the season for Wiggins. I think you could make a case this was Andrew Wiggins' second best game of the season, considering the opponent and considering his impact on the game and the plus 18 and really getting the job done for Golden State on an afternoon and morning here on the Pacific time zone where the Warriors absolutely needed it. So good sign as far as that goes. Wiggins had been playing better before the illness since Steve Kerr benched him and made that swap to put Podziemski in the lineup and move Klay Thompson to the three. Obviously, Kuminga's been playing in Draymond Green's stead at the 4 spot with Kevon Looney and Steph Curry. So to see him come out and play well, I think important. I think significant because the Warriors are going to have him doing just that. And it looked like the 2022 Wiggins, to be perfectly honest. It looked like that guy today that the Warriors are definitely going to need. So 120 to 114 is the final. Denver gets the win over the Warriors, 120 to 114. Golden State outscored 39-35 in quarter number 3, 28-25 in quarter number 4. And the Nuggets go on to win back of Nikola Jokic and all of his free throws in this one, 18 for 18 for the Joker at the free throw line. Bottom line, not a good enough ball game from Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. In some ways, it's kind of a wonder that the Warriors were able to be in the game. But again, the plus 42 as far as the bench points was exactly the reason the Warriors were able to hang in that game. Big games from Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins. Trace Jackson Davis had difficulty staying out of foul trouble, which I think, well, he did play well and scored 8 points, and I thought did the best he could during his minutes when the Warriors tried to match him up against Nikola Jokic. Foul trouble is going to be something that I would be concerned about with Trace Jackson Davis if he's going to get a lot of regular minutes. So, and keeping an eye on the post-game press conference in Denver as well. Steve Kerr not happy after the ball game. I'm reading this quote via Anthony Slater of The Athletic. I have a problem with the way we are legislating defense out of the game. We're just enabling players to BS their way to the foul line. If I were a fan, I wouldn't have wanted to watch the second half. It was disgusting. So Steve Kerr, wow. I mean, that is some big time criticism of the officials in a game that had a lot of eyeballs on it. And yeah, Denver, as the defending champions, they get to the free throw line a ton in the second half. And it was Jokic basically who was getting a lot of touch fouls in this game. So yeah, Steve Kerr backing his guys. Steve Kerr frustrated with the whistle. And you typically don't see Steve Kerr do that. I mean, there have been playoff series where fans have been practically begging Steve Kerr to go in on the officials. Well, he went in on the officials, I think, at least as much as you'll ever see him do with those comments in his post-game press conference at Ball Arena in Denver. So fine coming. We'll see. I think he tried to be as diplomatic as possible with regard to it, but there's no way around the fact that you can, not say that the officiating didn't play a role in the game, or the free throws, I should say. Now, the officiating, that's subjective, that's debatable. I'm sure a lot of Warrior fans are frustrated, but just from a watchability standpoint, when you look at it from a watchability standpoint, a lot of stoppages and a lot of breaks in the action, and not letting bigs in particular go toe to toe. I think that's something that a lot of people do deem to be somewhat unwatchable and just unaesthetically pleasing. I think Warrior fans would tell you that this also becomes a star versus star issue where I think Warrior fans have long believed through the decade here that Steph Curry doesn't get the whistle of other superstar players. And teams are always defending Steph by grabbing him and hammering him and trying to be as physical as they possibly can with him. And, again, I think Steph doesn't maybe sell some of those calls like some of the other players that do get to the free throw line a ton. Not saying that means that he's not getting fouled or it's his fault that he's not getting the calls. But his game is just not indicative to the extra attention that goes to trying to bring the officials to call some fouls that are there, which I think maybe hadn't been called at times, but also draw some of those fouls that aren't there. But you get the call because of some of the motion and the way that he's able to conduct himself. So I think it's twofold. It's Jokic got his. It's Steph ends up shooting one free throw, and I'm not even saying he should have necessarily shot more free throws. I don't have any specific instances where I look at, all right, Steph should have gotten this call or that call. But I think when you run through the league on a nightly basis, you could make the case that Steph, and overall standpoint, doesn't get to the line at the level that a lot of other players of his ilk do. I think that's a fair discussion point. Now, the reasons why is where I think it gets a little bit nuanced and can be, where we can have a little bit of a back and forth. But yeah, Steve Kerr, for the first time that I can remember, goes in on the officials, at least for him, post game. With regard to the Nikola Jokic 18 free throws that were the difference in the game, with the Warriors losing this one to the Nuggets 120-114. We'll get to some fun with numbers coming up here, as this is a special edition, stream-only edition of Dubs OT with JD John Dickinson for KNBR, the sports leader, coming to you from Levi's Stadium. 49ers and Ravens a little bit later on here on the sports leader, but doing some Dubs OT, talking about the Warriors' loss to the Nuggets as Golden State now dips back to 15-15. And the Warriors are going to have to hope that a competitive loss to the Nuggets doesn't send them into the tailspin that it did the last time that the Warriors were in Denver on November 8th, because the last time the Warriors were as hot as they had been coming into this game was when they came into Denver on November the 8th at 6-2, wound up losing a close one there, and then really struggled to the tune of 4-12 over the next 16 from that night. And then the Warriors were from 4 over to 4 under before this last 5-game winning streak that helped put the Warriors back to 15-14. All told, you got to love the week that the Warriors had, going back to the Brooklyn game and beating Portland, and then the overtime thriller against the Celtics before handling business at Chase Center against Washington and against the Blazers again to work their way to that one game over the 500 mark, finally get themselves back into the top 10 as far as the play-in tournament goes in the Western Conference. And so the Warriors are going to have to hope that they can get right back to their winning ways, which is something that they did not do the last time that they played in Denver, to fall to 6-3. And then things really kind of went awry for the Warriors from that point. So John Dickinson here, Dubs OT with JD. Again, appreciate everybody who's watching on YouTube, the JD John Dickinson YouTube page. Appreciate everybody who's watching on Twitter as well, as the Warriors lose this one by 6, back in action on Thursday at home against the Miami Heat, before the Warriors will close out the 2023 portion of the 23-24 campaign against the Dallas Mavericks, as Golden State now 15-15. And as well as they've been playing at home, they really are not getting the job done on the road as their 5-game winning streak, season high, tying 5-game winning streak came to an end. Warriors playing on Christmas for the 11th consecutive Christmas, also 13 of the last 14, 33rd time all time that the Warriors play on Christmas, now 15 and 18. Warriors had won their last 2 on the Christmas holiday, going all the way back to 2021 in Phoenix, and then 2022 at home against Memphis. So that little mini streak comes to an end. The Nuggets have won 5 in a row head-to-head against the Warriors. Denver sweeping the season series last year 3-0, and then winning the first 2 games in Denver of this early season series. Warriors and Nuggets going to play again coming up January 4th at Chase Center. Talked about the Warriors reserves outscoring the Nuggets 57-15. 25th time this season that the Warriors bench outscored an opponents, and the Warriors came in to this one already having dominated other teams' reserves. Andrew Wiggins, big part of the dominance. Team high 22 points, 4th 20-point game of the season. So, yeah, right up there with one of Andrew Wiggins' best games of the season. Brandon Podziemski continues to just be a baller in so many different ways. 13 points. How about Brandon Podziemski with 9 boards and 6 assists to go with a career-high 5 steals? He does a little bit of everything, does Podziemski, and he's hustling and he's connecting the game. And, I mean, this kid looks like a keeper without a doubt, and doing it in so many different ways, and doing it with his hustle, and doing it when he doesn't necessarily have to score the basketball, though he did score the basketball here. But yeah, just a great line from Podziemski. 13 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, 5 steals, and the first rookie to post those numbers since Ben Simmons did it back in November of 2017 for Philadelphia at the Lakers. So you got to go back 6 years, and the first Warriors rookie to post those numbers since Purvis Short in 1978. So we're going back now 45 years basically for some of the stuff that Podziemski's been able to do at such a young age in a Warriors uniform. Jonathan Kuminga, 13 points, 10th straight game in double figures for Kuminga. I didn't think Kuminga played particularly well in the first half. In fact, I think he was bad in the first half. He ended up being a minus 24 for the game. I don't know that he was as bad as the minus 24. A lot of that was the starters. I mean, the Warriors team and game worst player was Stephen Curry at minus 26. He just has to play better, bottom line, if the Warriors are going to win games against good teams. And I think that's the one thing we've seen that was very much different this afternoon than over the course of the last week plus. And that was the fact that Steph and Clay had sort of been leading the way with the other young players. And in this one, Steph Curry did not shoot it well. Klay Thompson did not shoot it well. And the Warriors ultimately wind up losing this one. And now the Warriors find themselves at 15-15 on the season. Appreciate it. Gustavo, a few people checking in on the YouTube chat. And I want to get to a couple of these here. Just say today was trash. I don't know why the Warriors would want to give Klay Thompson an extension. Well, the reason they'd want to give Klay Thompson an extension is because he's been awesome the last 6 games before today. Didn't shoot it well tonight. Got off to a good start early, and then ends up 3 of 12. I mean, he was hitting early, but yeah, bad Klay Thompson game, and back to the bad Klay Thompson games being really bad. So you look at Klay in this one, not a good game from him. Steph, bad Steph Curry game, and the Warriors just can't win if those two aren't going to be doing it. So, yeah, not good performances. G-Dub 49-49, didn't want to hear it about the officiating. Look, Steve Kerr said it, so I'm passing it along, and I think if he said it, we could have a conversation about it. But, no, I think the reason the Warriors lost was the fact that their starters did not play particularly well, and their best player did not play particularly well. A game worst minus 26. Need another star on the team, says G-Dub 4949. So, yeah, tough. And again, it's the same sort of things that pop up when the Warriors lose. It's the same things that pop up. It's Steph and Clay don't shoot it well, in particular Clay. Today it wasn't Wiggins, although Kuminga didn't play as well. Trayce Jackson-Davis was in foul trouble, so his effectiveness was basically limited. Kevon Looney does the best he can against Jokic, but Jokic still kind of can do what he needs to do. Saric, while helping offensively, didn't hit a three in this one. And defensively, it can be a little bit rough for Saric, even when he's playing at the 5. So this is one of those games where, you start looking at where the Warriors stack up against the big boys of the Western Conference and of the NBA now with the defending champion Nuggets. And, they hung in the game without really playing all that well. And the free throws ultimately did them in when Steph and Clay couldn't hit a shot. And I think that's something that probably, you feel okay about on the surface. But I also think it goes to show that this team still has a ways to go. To be, consistent with, competing and contending in the conference, which is not, we knew that to begin with. We all knew that. We all knew that was something that was going to be, a work in progress with this team, given the way that they've played. But the good news is they are getting some help. They got Wiggins back. Draymond's coming back at some point. GP2's coming back at some point. But then it gets to the conversation that we had the other night about the fact that who's going to not play if those guys are going to be playing. And, Draymond and GP2 are going to be playing. We can have the conversation coming up here about who's going to be coming off the bench and who's not and all of that. But, you look at, Wiggins came back, and what happened with Wiggins coming back? Moses Moody basically done, out of the rotation, only played 3 minutes. And so, not that Moody had been playing exceptional basketball. I think the Warriors know he can play in the playoff games and be a trusted player at that point. But Steve Kerr basically played 9. He basically played the 9 that had earned the minutes of late, or the 8 basically that had earned the minutes of late. And then Wiggins is somebody who, obviously, if he's healthy and available, he's going to play. And Wiggins wound up being the Warriors' best player on the court as they end up in this one being able to hang around but not have enough. Nova checking in. I bet you something, JD, after this game, there are under $5 million on the table for Klay Thompson. If shots aren't falling, he's a freeway on defense. Look, Klay didn't play well. And we've said it a lot. When Klay doesn't play well, the Warriors really have a hard time winning. They almost need him to play well, and Steph and others, and a dominant bench performer. Like, you almost need all of that. I think especially to beat a good team. That's one of the big takeaways for me in this one, is to beat a good team, you're going to need Steph and Klay to both play well and have a dominant bench and probably get somebody else to the starting lineup that really is efficient and impactful and effective. And the Warriors didn't have that in this game. And you can say what you want about Jokic and struggling shooting the basketball and the free throw disparity and all of that. Every Denver starter was in double figures. So the Warriors bench dominated, but the Nuggets starters dominated this game. Dominated this game. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hitting threes. He had struggled over the course of the road trip that Denver had been on, but he knocks him down from the corner with regularity. He knocks him down typically against the Warriors from everywhere, but he winds up with 16 points. Aaron Gordon, same old thing. Aaron Gordon, if you can get him to shoot threes, you probably can be in a good position to win. The problem, though, is the problem is when Aaron Gordon's not shooting three, he was 6 of 6 on twos. And so he can be dominant, and Jokic is often finding him in the dunker spot. Michael Porter Jr., can have a little clay in him as far as taking some bad threes. He was 3 of 10 from 3, but 5 of 7 from 2. And Murray was just a great equalizer in this one, an efficient 28 points for Jamal Murray. And so, yeah, the Nuggets are a measuring stick now for the Warriors as the defending champions. And I think they showed, at least the Warriors, as far as their starters go, that there's still a ways to go. So it's John Dickinson, Dubs OT with JD for KNBR, the sports leader, as the Nuggets beat the Warriors 120-114. This is a live version of what's going to be posted later on YouTube and then also posted as a podcast for the sports leader. So if you miss it, you can check it out, and we're going to blast this thing out. Appreciate the folks that have jumped into the conversation as far as the chat goes. Really appreciate that. That's been nice as the people have chimed in really well so far here. Been rolling for about 35, 36 minutes. We'll keep things going here for maybe another 15 minutes or so as the Warriors wind up now 15-15 on the season. So, yeah, a couple other notes and things to get to as we look around the NBA and just where this leaves the Warriors in terms of the standings. And Golden State right now, right back to on the brink of that play-in tournament with the 10 spot, 10th in the West, 15-15. The Warriors tied with Phoenix at 14-14. But both of these teams 8 games back of the top spot, which is Minnesota, 22-6, but even with each other. And the Warriors looking at things now 2.5 games out of the 6. The 6, of course, guarantees yourself a playoff spot. And the Warriors currently 3 games back of 4th in the Western Conference, which currently is Sacramento, sitting at 17-11. Clippers and Mavs both 17-12. So again, if the Warriors can push this thing out in pretty short order, they are going to have the ability to be in that conversation relatively quickly as far as working toward being a top 6 or eventually a top 4 kind of a team. So next up, Warriors and the Heat. And then the Warriors are going to play the Dallas Mavericks before the weekend and New Year's, and then more home games coming up with Orlando and a rematch against Denver and Toronto before the Pelicans come in. Pelicans are another one of those teams that's right around where the Warriors hope to be with their record to this point on the season. Pelicans 17-13. So basically from 17-11, which is the Kings in 4th, to 17-13, which is the Pelicans in 7th. We're talking about a half game separating those. Steve Kerr went in on the officials, at least as much as you would ever see Steve Kerr go in on the officials. Re-rack that quote from Coach Kerr following the ball game is he didn't like the 10 free throw attempts for Nikola Jokic in the third quarter, didn't like the 18 free throw attempts for the game for Nikola Jokic, and it ultimately winds up being a deciding factor. Here's the quote: "I have a problem with the way we are legislating defense out of the game. We're just enabling players to BS their way to the foul line. If I were a fan, I wouldn't have wanted to watch the second half. It was disgusting. It was disgusting." So, yeah, I think fine probably coming for Steve Kerr, although he tried not to make a direct shot at any one official or at the officials in general, tried to make it more big picture about the league, but got the point across. He got the point across. And I think a lot of Warrior fans were really frustrated. And the Warriors themselves, you could see, were extremely frustrated with the fact that Nikola Jokic was living at the line. And ends up being the difference in the game with the Warriors losing this game 120-114. All right, couple other things to get into here, as it is Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Brandon Pajemski. I know we talked a little bit about him earlier, but Pajemski is looking like one of the finds in this 2023 draft. Just his ability to be trusted not only by Steve Kerr, but by the other Warriors veteran players. And he tends to show up in the bigger moments, in the bigger games. And he right now, I think, is proving, like, if he can play, you're always looking for more playable players against teams that you may end up facing in a playoff series. And Pajemski, I mean, fantastic. 7th game this year with at least 10 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists. Leads all rookies. Are we going to start having to put Pajemski in the Rookie of the Month, Rookie of the Year conversation? I mean, I'm getting obviously a little ahead of myself here, and I don't think he can win it at this rate, especially off of the slow start. But just for the Warriors to have an impactful rookie at the level of Brandon Pajemski, it's been tremendous. It's been huge. 16th game with at least 5 rebounds. 12 straight. I mean, the last rookie to do that was Mark Jackson, who was a big. Not the former head coach Mark Jackson, but yeah, Mark Jackson, MARC. So yeah, impressive stuff from Brandon Pajemski. And we had the note earlier that he was the first rookie to put up the stat line that he put up in terms of rebounds and assists and steals since Ben Simmons did it 6 years ago. So he's just a jack of all trades. He's just a gamer. I mean, let's be honest. Brandon Pajemski's just a freaking gamer. He just gets the job done. And I think, yeah, he is definitely somebody that's going to be in the conversation as far as a top handful of rookies, first team rookies, without a doubt. I mean, he just shows up. He's steady. He hustles. He rebounds. Guys like playing with him. He's confident. Like, he didn't look overwhelmed by any stretch of the imagination going up against Murray. I mean, the Warriors put him on Jamal Murray to start the game. And so that's all right, you lose a game, but what are the positive takeaways from it? Pajemski continues to be a positive takeaway. Andrew Wiggins today, positive takeaway. Warriors' ability to hang in the game despite Steph and Klay not shooting the ball well, I think that's a positive takeaway. And the free throw disparity, although it was only a 6-point disparity, but hell, Warriors lost by 6. But yeah, Jokic, time after time after time after time, in a game where the Warriors otherwise defended him pretty well. You just don't see 18 of 18. You just don't see 18 of 18. And a few of them, I will admit, were pretty touchy. Like pretty soft, touchy. And it did wind up kind of grinding the game to a halt, even though the scoring was at a high clip in that third quarter with the 39-35 advantage for Denver. So all in all, frustrating morning and afternoon for the Warriors. But I do think there are some things that can be taken away on a positive front as this team looks to continue the momentum. I mean, the bottom line is this team's not playing another road game for a couple of weeks now. We talked about Miami. We talked about Dallas, Orlando, Denver, all coming up at home. Toronto. Beginning Thursday through January 10th, when they will play the Pelicans, it's all home for 2 weeks. The next road game for the Warriors is not until the 12th of January. 12th of January, which is basically 3 weeks from Friday. So the Warriors are going to have a shot to get healthier. The Warriors are going to have a shot at some point to get Draymond Green back into the fold as well. And the Warriors have been playing exceptional basketball on the home floor after the tough start. So 8 in a row at Chase after the 1-6 start. And so this is a shot to separate from that 15-15 mark to try and get into that conversation with the Kings and the Clippers and the Mavs and the Pelicans and all those teams that are slightly above the 500 mark to this point on the season. And there was some news earlier this morning on Draymond from Woj of ESPN. Woj saying that Draymond Green has been meeting virtually with league officials and the league and the Players Association and the Warriors to sort of map out progress toward a potential return. And it was reported that it's probably around 11 to 13 games total as far as what he will ultimately miss, and anywhere between another 6 to 8 games total. So you start looking at that and the games that I just laid out, and there could be a Draymond Green return at some point between now and January 10th. And if not between now and January 10th, it'd be the first game after, with the next 6 coming up on the Chase Center hardwood between Thursday and when they go to Chicago on January 12th to begin a 3-game roadie, actually a 4-game roadie. Chicago, Milwaukee, Memphis, and Utah after the 6-game homestand. So real strong opportunity for the Warriors. Draymond Green coming back at some point, and then things get a lot more difficult for Steve Kerr as far as how he chooses to divvy up the playing time. But as he said a bunch, it's a nice problem to have. It's a nice problem to have, but then it's on the Warriors to manage it. So good stuff. Appreciate it. Everybody who was watching on YouTube, everybody who was watching on Twitter, the live stream, we're going to get this thing posted as a podcast here within the hour. We're also going to repost the video to the KNBR YouTube page. And anybody that missed it will have an opportunity to go back and get some instant reaction. We apologize for the technical issue with the 49er game against the Ravens, although we want everybody, of course, listening to KNBR, the sports leader, as the Niners take on the Ravens in the showdown of the season in the NFL, with both teams at 11-3, 3 games to go, 1 seed on the line for San Francisco. Should be an epic evening here at Levi's Stadium with Ronnie Lott and with Bill Walsh behind me here, keeping an eye. We got legends lurking over my shoulder here from Levi's throughout the course of the last hour here on a special edition of Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 7 in a row at home? Did somebody saying 7 in a row at home? I've got 6 in a row at home coming up here. Did Johnny Calendar miscount here? I've got the Heat, the Mavs, the Magic, the Nuggets, then a couple of days off, and then Toronto. Did I miss one? I don't think I did. I guess it's within the realm of possibility. But either way, a big-time opportunity for the Warriors here coming up to continue. Oh, I did miss one. 7 in a row for the Warriors at home. I missed the Pistons on January 5th. Pistons on January 5th, right after the Nuggets on January 4th. So a big-time opportunity for the Warriors to get right and try and continue what has been a big-time hot streak. The Warriors have unfortunately started playing on the road a lot more like they did a year ago, but at home, they've been getting the job done in a big-time way. All right, that'll do it. Again, appreciate everybody who watched. And this will be converted into podcast form. If you missed it, we'll make sure we blast it out. There will also be a Just Dubs podcast tomorrow. Join me and Greg Silver for that. That's going to drop in the early afternoon. And we'll make sure we get that out to the masses as well. The next Dubs OT show will be following the Warriors and the Miami Heat at Chase on Thursday night. Again, keep it locked here on KNBR, the sports leader. Dubs OT with JD coming up following the Warriors and the Heat. And we'll be back full bore. Instant reaction, phone calls, text messages, YouTube and Twitch, YouTube chat, alive, all of that for the Warriors and the Heat here on the Sports Leader Thursday night. So appreciate everybody watching, and we will talk to you on Thursday. This has been Dubs OT with JD on KNBR, the Sports Leader.